Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to another remake review or recommendation here, where I cover a remake to see if it brought anything new worth bringing, or kept in spirit with the original and it's just worth checking out or not. For this entry, I checked out the 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead, based on the film of the same name, of course, from 1968, Night of the Living Dead by George Romero, which is seen as kind of like the birth of the modern zombie film as we know them. This iteration was directed by special effects artist extraordinaire Tom Savini, who and it stars the late Tony Todd of Candyman fame, among many other works. I'd been covering a lot of the Romero zombie films a few months back, kind of went through all of them, including Queens of the Dead by his daughter, so I figured it was finally time to visit this remake. For this one, the synopsis is similar to the original, as there were no, really giant swings being taken in this interpretation, and that the synopsis is as follows. When the unburied dead return to life and seek human victims, 7 refugees shelter in a house in the Pennsylvanian countryside. So our opening is pretty much the same as well, with the characters of Barbara and Johnny taken on by Patricia Tallman and Bill Moseley respectively, and for the most part it sticks to the formula that worked in the original. We have some strange thing happening where the dead are returning to life, attacking the living, and people are trying to stay safe while this night goes on. Barbara and Tony Todd's character, as he takes on the role of Ben, are hiding out in a nearby farmhouse where they come across a few others who are also hiding as well. Most of this film plays in some ways like a fan film, in that Savini didn't really seem to change that much. He's obviously a fan and has worked with Romero before. Most talked about, I would say, being Dawn of the Dead, where he also played one of the raiders in that, but he really sticks to what happens almost scene by scene, with only some minor updates here and there, for the most part. It shows that he was a bit cautious when it comes to making any large-scale changes, likely being a fan of the original. Not wanting to change what had worked. But the most notable thing that stuck out to me, of course, was that, of course, this is in color instead of black and white, but also that they gave the Barbara character a bit more time and empowerment. It also had a tad shorter of a runtime, by like a few minutes, with some scenes kind of shortened, the speed picked up, and that remaining time that was left over having some additional like morning after aspects worked in. More on that in a bit, but the fate of the Ben character is changed or updated a little bit as well. He's still very tragic, but in this interpretation I feel like it's more tragic in that he is very aware of his fate coming on, rather than being taken out mistakenly from a distance as he was in the original. He knows he is screwed and is going to meet his end, and we get to see that revelation. So seeing Tony Todd kind of bring all that to the screen really worked well. He is obviously written in a way, this character is obviously written in a way where we really root for him, and even knowing the original, I was kind of not prepared for his ending in this film. It's a bit more sad, like I said, since he kind of has got time to reflect on everything that's happened that evening, and he knows that he's about to meet his end. As mentioned previously, also, the Barbara character had a lot more going on, from being shell-shocked and frozen and barely speaking to eventually stepping up, getting a lot of courage, taking out zombies without thought, just aiming and shooting. Thought it was a nice bit of a change that they brought to it. Now, as for the changes for the ending itself, the original gave us kind of like a peek into what's happening kind of like all around that night, with it turning into almost like a hunting trip for some people. We just kind of touch on people moving about and taking out zombies, which of course is how Ben is originally taken out. They mistake him for that. In this one, it feels like there's a little bit more of an expansion on that ending, with that perhaps being my favorite part of this. We get a bit more, and it was filmed in a way where it really reminded me of Dawn of the Dead. I know, as a reminder, in the beginning of Dawn of the Dead, we get mostly this newsroom where there's heavy discussion and argument about what's happening and how to handle it. But then it expands out to show what's happening, in the cities around that area, with that hunting trip meets tailgating kind of atmosphere with the locals, almost turning it into a party in a way. This one shows a bit more of those like similar situations, with Barbara actually witnessing it before revisiting the house, and the reveal of the fate of the Ben character, as well as another nice, somebody who kind of gets what's coming to them by her hands. Now, when it comes to remakes, things can get very heated. Some see them as completely blasphemous in every way, as if somehow a remake means another film is not going to be made, or that it's a replacement of the original, or that somehow all copies of the original are going to be round up and destroyed. For me, I see remakes as kind of like a new production of a play, a different cast, different producers and directors and so on, trying to bring a show to a new audience. Maybe with some updates. In some cases they fail, with them at best being pointless and at worst just really not being good and not capturing anything that made the original stand out. But in some cases we get ones that work. Night of the Living Dead had room for a remake. It was 22 years old, black and white, very low budget, and was trying something new at the time. So this one was ready for that, especially with this explosion of horror in the 80s, especially with this one also being in the hands of Savini, gave us both the perfect reason and, to kind of take into account all that room we have for doing a remake, as it was handled by the right person, in my opinion. In so many ways, it kind of repeated the most important aspects of the original, keeping within the same spirit and framework and overall feel, yet added different ways of filmings, both in it being in color and the general feel and how those shots are lined up. It was very reminiscent, yet also updated. And those updates and those changes, from the minor bits here and there to fleshing out the barber character, changing up Ben just a little bit toward his end, with those additional portions toward the ending, it really make this a remake which is more than worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out my latest quick video here for the remake of Night of the Living Dead from 1990, which at the time of this video is on paid rental and possibly the Roku channel. Sometimes the Roku listings are a little bit off. There are aspects in this film which I feel work better, as a whole than the original film did, just certain parts of it. And with that bit more at the ending and what's happening, that dawn, it kind of links up well with Dawn of the Dead, where it kind of makes me want to go through Night, Dawn, and Day trilogy one more time, even though I just did it a few months ago for the channel, so be sure to look out for those videos if you browse back a bit. Anyways, that's all I've got for this one. Thanks again for coming by. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.